Vern's here, I don't know.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order.
What happened?
This is all right-sided.
Yeah, it is all right-sided.
Right wing.
So you guys are going to be making lots of motions
Very
tonight.
good.
You have to be ready.
Okay.
All right, so we'll start with the first one. Who wants to adopt the agenda?
No.
Councillor Gilroy.
I move to adopt the agenda.
No.
I don't. We have public delegations missing.
Well, that's under delegations. Oh, well, we'll do the public delegations.
Okay.
We'll add that
Would
in.
you like me to say
I'll
move
go-
it on an amended one instead?
I'll add it on as delegations. We got Megan, and then as 2.2, I'll put in public delegations. All right, any other changes? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. And we move on to our delegation. Welcome, Meg.
Hi, hello again. I like you've done for place.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearing out.
Hello.
Yeah.
So last time I was here was March, and I presented to you the final draft of our integrated watershed management plan. I'm like, wait, does everybody know me? I didn't introduce myself. Yes. So since then, we've got feedback from people in the provincial government, other municipalities, and we finalized the plan. So I guess basically why I'm here is because I'm asking all of the municipalities for their support of this watershed plan. So just to review, you guys all got a copy of this one in your mailboxes, and then the final PDF plan, the full version is about 120 pages, so I didn't print them. But I am getting copies of the full plan printed, and when I have one, I'll give you a copy for the office. So why are we doing this document? The government of Alberta mandated us and the other watershed planning and advisory councils to work on integrated watershed management plans. And to do that, we're bringing together all the different people in the watershed, the different governments, the industry stakeholders, forestry, agriculture, First Nations, etc., to put together a document that has shared goals and objectives for our watershed, and what we're going to do to meet these objectives. So things like quality water, good water quality, swimmable, fishable lake water, protected riparian areas, that sort of thing. So this document that we put together, although mandated by the government of Alberta, is not a legislated document. It's to be used as a guidance document by people like yourselves and municipalities, the provincial government, folks that have jurisdiction over different areas of land and water and resource management. So say you guys are looking at a development and there's recommendation around riparian areas adjacent to rivers or stormwater, stuff like that. So that would be pertain to towns, but not specifically to any other levels of government, because the provincial government doesn't manage municipal stormwater. So it's organized into 5 themes. So water quality, water quantity, wetlands, riparian areas, and biodiversity, but not all biodiversity, because that would be really huge. We just focus mainly on fish and waterfowl and animals that are more directly related to the water. So as you go through the document, it describes, well, what the plan is, a little map of our watershed. This is a very short, sweet version. Like I said, you guys have the copies of the big ones. So it talks about the engagement process we went through. So we've been working on this for a few years. You start with developing a terms of reference, identifying who you're going to work with, putting together your steering committee and your technical committees. So Town of High Prairie is on our board and our steering committee, and also participated in the municipal working group. So this shouldn't be like the first triggering of this. Peter was also at a few meetings, and Brian, and before that, there are several folks from the town involved. So the plan first describes some of the challenges we have. So things like poor water quality after high rain events, flooding. So it goes through each theme, each of the 5 themes, and talks about some of the issues like nutrient loading and increasing algal blooms and declining water quality, erosion on the channels, low water levels in our streams at certain times of the year, lake water quality and lake levels. So there's lots of issues. Declining health of our riparians and water, or riparian areas and wetlands. And then, so after the description of some of the issues, that we have the goals and objectives, outcomes and objectives. So we state an outcome. For example, water quality is maintained or improved to support communities, ecosystems, recreation, wildlife, and economic opportunities for future generations. Pretty agreeable objective. And then we have outcome, and then we have several objectives that we're going to try and implement to achieve that. So the things that we're recommending will help achieve good water quality. So it goes through these 5 different themes, and then it talks about some of the indicators that we use to measure water quality. Okay, we have water quality issues, so what? So what are the indicators? We can look at nutrient levels, fecal coliform levels, and a whole bunch of other parameters and compare them to provincial guidelines and health guidelines and stuff like that, so we know where we're at and if we're exceeding anything. One thing we learned is we don't have a lot of good water quality data for this watershed. We're not on a main river like the Athabasca or the Peace or the North Saskatchewan, so there's actually no government-led monitoring going on our lake or any of our rivers, so that's something that we're working on. So getting back to the plan, after the description of issues, our goals and objectives, talking about the indicators, how are we going to measure these things, then we move into the recommendations section. And it goes through each of the 5 themes, and I actually printed off a table of the recommendations that are relevant to municipalities. So there's 21. Do you want one? Sure. I have a pen, I think. I was expecting more people here.
We were too.
Half your table's empty. So we use this for discussion at a meeting with Big Lakes, and I found that the table helped because the plan is quite lengthy and technical. So going through this table, oh sorry, I didn't mean to make that. Going through this table kind of helps streamline what we're looking at here. So as you can see, underwater quantity, flood mitigation, that pertains to you guys. You guys would have concerns about flooding. Things like reducing external nutrient loads. So effluent, that would be municipal septic effluent, and then stormwater. So those are things that are relevant, but those are underwater quality. Things like restoring river lengths. That one's a bit out of the scope of the town of High Prairie, but you know, there's lots of sections. Well, just as we go through town here, that's a section that was straightened, and there's other all the way out to Buffalo Bay. There's straightened areas, so that's more of like a municipality, like Big Lakes' jurisdiction rather than yours. But as you go through this chart, you can see which ones are most relevant to the town, and so these are all the recommendations in the plan. And then I put this, we did a little exercise with some other groups to assess whether it's high, medium, or low priority for you guys. So if you wanted to, like, not tonight, but going forward, you could look at these, and these are all the recommendations in the plan that pertain to municipalities. You can figure out which ones are higher priority for you guys, and then going forward, that could be something that we would work together on, which would be like plan implementation. So that's, I wanted you to see these, because they're pulled out of the full document, so you didn't have to flip through it and find them all, but you can see they're organized by theme. So this plan is complete. We're finalizing it for print and to put on the web and make it public. You guys have provided input, lots of folks have provided input, but you have to draw the line and say, okay, we're done now. Like, we can revise it and add more to it. It's a point in time. This is our first version of the plan. We're gonna work with it for 5 years and try to implement some of these things and track who's doing what and where the successes are. And then in 5 years, revisit it. And if there's things we missed or things we want to add, it's you know, planning's cyclical. You guys are a municipality, you know that. It's never ending. So this is version 1, IWMP, Integrated Watershed Management Plan. And going forward, our work will be focusing on implementing. So we're going to pull together people from our municipalities, yourselves, Big Lakes, Slave Lake, and Lesser Slave River, with provincial government staff who are working in the area, so operational staff and planning staff and limnologists. And then instead of having the municipal working group, the steering committee, and the technical committee, we're going to bring key people from each area together and have the implementation committee. One thing I really heard from some of the other municipalities was that it's all great to talk about this stuff, but 85% of the land in our watershed is owned by the Crown. So we, like municipalities, your guys, Big Lakes, even the First Nations, industry, they're not in charge of making decisions on that land. So the province has to be involved and committed, just like the rest of us. So we're going to be meeting with probably 5 or 6 folks from the Upper Athabasca region next month, me and our planner Sandy, to talk about their table is actually 5 pages. So there's a lot of recommendations in the plan aimed at the government of Alberta. Well, they manage Water Act, Public Lands Act, fisheries, wildlife, caribou, grizzly bears. There's a lot. So we try to pick out some key people that we want to meet with, and then going forward after that, we're going to bring everybody together. So the next time I invite you to a watershed implementation meeting, that'll be to sit down and have a conversation with all the major stakeholders. Like who's doing what kind of resources can we allocate, what are the government's priorities, what are the municipalities' priorities. Well, because we don't really see the government of Alberta staff that often, and to have them as part of the conversation is really important, because if they're committed to managing the 85% of the watershed, we can do the 15% or 10%, and then First Nations have some jurisdiction. I'm going to be meeting with them. Probably not to just go through the whole technical document, more to say this is the plan and what things resonate with your community, what do you see as important for, say it's Sucker Creek. I know that they have concerns with flooding and they're pretty low lying, so that might be something that they want to work on. So the intent is to make sure that they have the document, but they're structured a little differently and their decision-making processes are different than, like, say, working with the provincial government or yourself. So those conversations will just kind of go where they go. We have 2 First Nations on our board, but we're not really engaged with them at the community level, whereas I have a working partnership with Swan River First Nation, and I chat with them a lot, and we do things there, water quality work, some stream crossing remediations in Upper Swan for grayling habitat, and then I've done community events there too. So, but they're not interested in participating at the board level, so it just kind of depends on the group. So then going forward after that, I have a lot of engagement type stuff to do. I want to plan I don't know what to call it, a watershed science forum or something, where we can have a kind of a host of different technical experts and subject matter experts talking about the different components of the plan, and maybe sharing some of the work that's actually being done here, like the fisheries biologists or the caribou recovery plan folks, letting us know this is what we're doing out here in your watershed. So that's probably looking at like March 2019 now. So that's where we're at in the work plan going forward. So what I'm asking from you guys is to give it one last look over and make sure there's no big deal breakers in there, and that you support what the work we've done and put into it, and what we've put forward. So you can really do it however you want. I don't know how you make a resolution of support in the minutes, or you could write us a letter, or you can word it however you want. I think Town of Slave Lake made a motion that said they support the work that went into the watershed plan, and they will work with us to implement it as resources permit. Because obviously, if I had $1 million a year, I could get a lot more done, right? But budget is going to be the biggest constraint on tons of this stuff. So that's why the prioritization is important. What can we tackle first with some easy wins to build a little momentum? What resonates well with community members? That kind of stuff. So that's kind of the work ahead of us, is figuring out what we can do in the next 2 years, 5 years, that kind of thing. So I'm sure you've all read the whole plan too. Brian must have, because be on the board. But go through
Help
this
develop.
booklet and this gives you a good overview of what's in there in the various sections. There's a really big appendix because there's water quality data, there's standard operating procedures for forest companies, there's pieces out of the agriculture operators and agriculture APIA, that one. The appendix has lots of the rules and regulations that people are following on the landscapes, but the plan itself is probably half the document.
Okay, anybody have questions for her at this point?
No,
Go ahead.
You can.
just to make it, because I know some of them may not have wanted to ask it, but basically, what you're asking us to do is to approve the plan, but we're not committing to anything except to talk about future considerations.
Yeah, no, you're not making a commitment for anything. You're saying that you read it, what you participated in its development, and had opportunities to give feedback, and the final product is something that you support, and you support, I don't know how you want to word it. It's up to you guys, really, like what you want to do, if you want to send a letter or something more formal. But yeah, examine, implement, look at implementation priorities or something. You can't. I don't want you guys to make a financial commitment or a definite commitment to doing any particular thing. It's to support the plan and to use it as a guidance document in your operations and going forward, that kind of thing.
Now, when you were here in March, you had asked for the same sort of thing, I believe, and you'd mentioned that you'd gotten support from, I think, Slave Lake. Did we not write a letter at that time? I thought we did.
No,
Oh,
I would have remembered that.
okay. No, I just.
No, I
remember
know. You guys
having this
you
discussion.
probably talked about it, and then there was just nothing really formally. And then we had the summer off. And
Yeah.
now we're back at it in the fall, finishing this up. So
Okay.
I'm just reiterating, and sometimes it helps to come back and to pick out the key bits and talk about those rather than the whole document as a big thing. Read through these. Maybe, I don't know, yourselves or staff could prioritize based on the work you guys are doing and what your plans are. But some of these are higher priority for sure, and others aren't. So that's up to you guys, and that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about going forward in our implementation committee meetings. Who thinks what is high priority and who wants to work on what in the next kind of couple of years here. And then that's when we'll bring in the other municipalities and the government of Alberta. So everybody's at the table talking about what we're all doing. And now I'm a planner. Yeah?
I have one.
Sure.
It's actually, one question is not really kind of related. I just wondered, do you have, with the watershed, do you have topical graphs or maps of the area as far as elevations and stuff, like from the river, along the river path to the hills on the heights of the land around?
I don't, it's really hard to do the whole watershed as one big topographical map, but I have.
You run along the ridge, right?
Yeah, the boundary of our watershed, I guess it's in this booklet. The boundary of our watershed, if you're driving to Swan Hills, it's basically when you start going down the hill into Swan Hills. It's like the highest point before Swan Hills, and then it follows that ridge.
Yeah.
And then our northern boundary, Peavine Métis settlement, a little bit north of Seal Lake there. And then the north of Lesser Slave Lake on the north shore, we actually have a pretty small little piece there. Uticuma is not in our watershed, that's the piece. And then the whole Lesser Slave River, which links us with the Athabasca River.
Well, that's why I was just wondering if you had a
Yeah, this map
that
is-
showed the elevations of your area,
I
and where the flow of the water actually
It'd be something
off the hills
to
and
go
stuff.
forward.
Just curious.
I could make one.
Well-
I have a digital elevation model on my GIS software.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so you just zoom in on the area you want to look at, and then you upload your digital elevation model, and you can change the shading and stuff to make it look how you want.
Oh.
If you're good at mapping. The lady at the MD at Greece, she's really good at that.
Okay. No,
If you have an intermunicipal partnership thing going on, you could get some mapping maybe.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah, I kind of, one of my goals when I had time and money was to put together kind of a watershed atlas that does zoom in on like our West Prairie subbasin and the other subbasins and looks at elevation and how the water moves and what's
History
going
of the
on
river.
the landscape and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But
No, that's.
if I had more time and more money, I'd have way more stuff. But I guess you guys can discuss it and figure out what you want to do going forward. And if you have any questions, call me at the office or email me, or I'll just come on over. I'm only a couple blocks away, and we'll go from there. We are trying to finalize it, and I would like to say it's final when I have support from all of our municipalities and the provincial government. So it's all kind of wrapping up here this month. So sooner the better.
Yeah, we can put it on our next agenda, so we'll give that to Vernon to make sure we put this on our next agenda, and we'll discuss it. And I know we've talked about it. That's why I thought we'd already sent a letter, but I know you can anticipate
Well,
a letter coming.
it looks good on our part to have your formal support for it, and I have it on file. And, you know, years down the road, when we have a new council, I can be like, excuse me, these folks worked hard on this, and they supported it.
And of course, it will depend on money on what we can implement. But
Yeah, we can start it with like some scoping and
Yeah.
budgeting exercises.
According to our package, we have to deal with part of it today. Under the scheduled delegation, it actually has a motion or an RFP.
we've never had a motion under a scheduled
I-
delegation.
I see it there in front of me, so I'm sorry to correct you on that, but page 3.
Well, that's a little odd, because, we normally don't have a recommendation on scheduled delegations.
Yeah. Not normally.
That's a little bit different. It's usually.
I think I did ask,
What's that?
Brian Martinson and you, Brian Mayer, via email a while ago. So that's probably how it ended up on the agenda with the recommendation today. I'm not sure. How
Yeah, we were
you
supposed to
guys
deal
feel
with it today.
Yeah, well, you know what, and I don't think that there's any issues with getting, making a motion to support this and then getting the
I'll make the
council to
motion.
write a letter. So what's your motion?
I'll make the motion that council put forth the endorsement to the integrated waste.
Lesser Slave Integrated Watershed
They-
Management
I was
Plan.
gonna say, they've got the wrong one on here. Integrated waste management plan is, I'm sorry, it had the wrong motion on there, so. Okay,
Waste management, yeah, we don't
No,
want to put our waste.
Maybe don't use that record.
for council to put forth a motion to endorse the integrated watershed management plan for Lesser Slave Lake Watershed Council.
Yeah,
Is that right? Council, committee, which one is it?
Lesser Slave Watershed. Well, if the plan itself is called the Lesser Slave Integrated Watershed Management Plan. So I just say IWM. So,
okay,
like I said, if you need any other information about it, before you guys decide.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what we've done, just option one.
I make that motion because at the same time, we're not committing to anything specific at this time. We're just committing that we agree with the plan, and then we can set our own priorities at a later date after talking to admin. So I think it's a good thing to go forward with it for the endorsement.
Now, I know one of the issues is maybe we haven't got all of the information to discuss this, as that's why we don't usually do it with public delegations, but this has been before us a couple of times, so is everybody comfortable going ahead with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, all those in favor? Carried. So you should get a letter soon.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
know it's kind of just a formality, but
Yeah.
you guys are one of our working partners, and it's just part of the process. And it looks good when we speak with our other communities that we have support from our municipalities and other stakeholders. So
Thanks for coming in.
part of the process. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. And now we move on to public delegations, this is Chris's opportunity.
No
Okay.
beautification updates or anything for us?
All right.
Ask Pete the Great.
So move on to item 3 or 3.1, the peace officers report. Can I get a motion? Councillor Courtley?
That council received the senior peace officer's September 2018 report for information.
All right. I'll try not to call you counselor this time. Constable.
Peace officer.
Peace officer, yeah.
So, just some notable things. Last month, we're still issuing warnings and tickets for unsightly premises, of which one of them is in the court system right now for a court order. So, but that's hopefully going to be rectified before it gets to that particular stage in the process. But other things are we're getting more and more semi-trucks, tanker trucks, logging trucks turning at 53rd and 48th here. We're trying to get as many as we can, but I've noticed when I'm off shift that they're doing it earlier in the mornings and later at night when they anticipate that we're not around. But, we're doing our best to educate. Their famous words are, well, we're not from out of town, we're just following our GPS roadmap or whatever. But the repeat offenders are getting ticketed. So. Other than that, pretty much business as usual. We hosted a training session here last month for our shotgun research. We had 7 peace officers in town for the weekend, the 2-day weekend. And they made comments about how they liked the community, which was nice to hear.
Excellent. All right, any questions for our peace officer? Councillor Gilroy.
You have on, it's our page 20, continuing paperwork with company for transition to the AFRRCS radio system. It says next steps of integration. How long will that be before we're all...
So we're on board? Or
yeah, we're 100% on board.
I'm anticipating probably earlier this spring, March, April. We're at this. We're at the point where we're getting our government approval and authorization. Next step will be getting our radios frequencies inputted and operational.
But they have been installed, the new system has been installed in your vehicles already? Is that right?
No, we still have to get mobile units for our trucks.
Okay.
We have our portables,
Okay.
but we still have to purchase mobile units for the vehicle.
I also was curious about 2 ban notices to 1 individual. Was that for 2 separate places, or was that the same place twice?
2 separate businesses. Yeah.
Really? Okay. And I guess the last one is there any way of way after hours talking to Alberta Transport about how we run our lights in town? Or would that go something else? Because I know I've heard a couple of the doctors have said when they have to get calls at, say 3 in the morning, they seem to get stopped at every single light, and they'd like to be able to not get stopped if it's an emergency. So I don't know who would end up, but it is traffic safety. So
We did, you had talked to them before and they couldn't reprogram them, you said, or what was the issue?
They can't do it within town. They have to, apparently it's online in Edmonton that they have to do it, and I can resend the request to.
Okay, because we had talked with Ryan with transportation when we were at, and he did say if we sent a letter to him, he would get it changed.
Okay.
So, but it wasn't, and he wanted us to be specific on what we wanted the lights to do and when, the kind of thing. So maybe what we need to do is at our next meeting, we can sit down and say, this is what we think would work for lights, and then send that letter off to them and get it done that way. Because, I mean, it's really annoying at 2 or 3 in the morning when you have to stop and there's nobody around and there's a one-way light, and just open it, you know, just have it go one way then the other.
Aren't traffic lights nice when Think about it. Think about it.
Traffic and truckers.
No, it's only for when there's enforcement. It's only when there is enforcement, yeah. Okay, Councillor Stenos.
Actually, can you clarify the issue you're having with trucks turning? Like, what's the problem there?
I'm particularly talking about semi-trucks
Yeah.
that are turning at the lights here. It's posted no truck turns. They have to follow the truck route, which is down towards A&W, and then hang a right there at 50th Ave. Railroad Ave. The reason being is these intersections are so narrow, and when they're making their turn, then it could cause issues with collisions.
Actually, today at lunchtime, when I went for lunch at 1 o'clock, there was 4 trucks in a row while I was parked there turning, and the road was partially blocked by a truck for some sort of signage or whatever from Edmonton, and all these semis were turning, and a few of them, the vehicle in front of me, myself, had to move right over for the exact that reason they almost hit us.
What do you think?
It's unfortunate they can't see the signs at the opportune time.
Okay, I had a question, and it was regarding this this unsightly, and then you've got encroachment. Like, those are 2 totally different items. Is this an unsightly issue, or is it an encroachment issue?
This particular one is both.
Oh.
And that's the one it's in the courts. That's the one that's. So he's making an effort. He's completed the unsightly, but still encroaching on the municipal boundaries.
Okay, so it's because I'm thinking with unsightlies, we issue the thing to clean it up, and if they don't, then we bring somebody in to clean it up. Is that?
Yes, yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So that's why I'm wondering why it made it to court.
Well, this one, it's a combination of this particular file is a combination of both, or was a combination of both.
Okay, and I was just also wondering about the speed signs. Are they still working? It's now a few years, but I just noticed that they haven't been on for a while, so I'm wondering why.
We like to do a bit of a break once in a while. But yeah, we'll be, and we're looking at maybe relocating the one at the east end of town now that the speed signs or speed limits have changed. But for that, we're just looking at what a location would be to just move it.
No, they're still working good then. It's just a matter of it's just been the time off, so to speak. Okay. All right, last one.
It's a positive thing. I just want to say thank you for finally getting Alberta Transport to fix all those crosswalk buttons. it makes a big difference. And I know you guys worked hard on it, and we've been waiting for, I don't know how long when they broke down. But thank you for getting the crosswalk buttons, especially near the school, fixed.
Okay. Councillor Court, you had one more, you had.
It's got a broken one now.
I think, did we discuss this before? I was just wondering if there was any more input or thought into this intersection here on the traffic that pulls up and wants to turn right when the green light's coming from the south. We were gonna put a red arrow, or was that a possible thing? Did you talk to transportation about that? Remember? Did we discuss that, or was that
That wasn't here.
wasn't
I
here?
can't,
Because there's always an issue when the turn signal's on for the vehicles coming from the south,
yeah,
turning west, right? And the vehicles that are sitting at the stoplight, vehicles that come up and turn right, they always are they don't have the right of way.
right, no,
But there's nothing indicating that there's a turn lane. There's nothing. Normally in an intersection like that, there'd be a red, you can't turn right signal at the same time as the green one's on for the. I was wondering if that's something we can look at through the traffic coalition, or is that something we go through transportation? Because there should be some indication
it should, yeah.
of the traffic having to stop, or even a sign saying no turning right on a red light, something like that. Because I see it multiple times over and over again. There's always confusion and just about accidents because they're trying to turn, and even the ones going west that are turning
Yep.
north, same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
It's the same issue both ways on those turn lights. So
I-
I'm wondering if there's something.
I could bring it up with the coalition,
Yeah,
and
it's
maybe through the coalition do a request through to transportation to look at it.
even a sign just rate, maybe not a sign, or something on there saying no turning, no right hand turn when on red lights or something.
Yeah, I think it should be right on the
Yeah.
the light pole.
Yeah, because I've seen it in other intersections in other communities, different towns, cities, where there's no turning right on a red light, right? So that's why there's always seems to be that confusion in the intersection. Somebody's going to get dinged if they haven't already.
Exactly. Yeah,
So-
I've seen some close calls there too.
Yeah. But I didn't know. I couldn't remember if we talked about that before, if we had
Yeah,
discussed that before. But it's
good.
one thing that I thought maybe we can.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Okay, we had a motion from Councillor Courtly to receive the peace officer's report for information. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to item 4.1, the Gas Alberta proxy and ballot. Thank you, Alan.
Is Councillor Courtney able to go?
Well, let's have a motion
Well-
and then we can discuss it.
He would be in the motion. That's what I'm just asking.
We put it in, we can change it.
Okay.
Councillor Gilroy.
The council appoint Councillor Courtney as a proxy holder and approve the attendance of the proxy holder at the Gas Alberta Inc. annual meeting of shareholders and to sign the proxy vote.
All right. So,
Now you can ask.
Okay.
Councillor Courtney.
And it is November 27th.
The reason I ask is I know that Mr. Walker has done it once as public works person going, so that's why I'm going to make the motion to either one. Whoever could go is what I would amend my motion to.
I should be able to be there. I gotta be down there that weekend previous, so. Should be,
Shall we make, maybe we should make the motion so it could be either or?
one
like
or the other.
Vernon and or, because I see on the form itself, it says, either or, right?
Either or.
Yeah. As an alternate proxy holder, right? So we can have Vernon as one and Arlen as the alternate proxy holder.
Okay.
So Marion, did you catch that? All right, so that all works. Any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
vote yes if I'm named in the motion?
You're voting yes for Vern.
Yeah.
Okay, but,
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you have to vote because otherwise,
well, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
I don't vote.
You have to, yeah.
There's no pecuniary interest or, anything like
Right.
that. So there's no
Yeah.
problem.
Moving on to our minutes, 5.1, the organizational meeting. Councillor Courtland.
Council approved the minutes from the October 23rd, 2018 organizational meeting of council as presented.
Now, I know that there was, just handed out a couple of additional
yes.
pages that were not in there. So we have, we had the first and the last. This one was hard to read through these ones, 'cause but.
Put this picture when you tried to throw away.
You know what, we're still missing, oh, here it is, page 404, so this was the third page, sorry, okay. I didn't see the second extra.
I don't know what happened there. It looks good.
Okay. All good, all those in favor? Carried.
Did we take a motion on that one?
Yeah, we did.
Councillor Courtley did.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to our regular meeting of council on October 23rd. Councillor Courtley.
Council approved the minutes from the October 23rd, 2018 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any questions on these ones?
You have a motion?
Well, you know, one of the things that I notice is that they're not all still in here, this one either. Like, it goes from page 1 to page 3, then to page 5, and that's it.
Yeah. We had an odd
So-
meeting that day.
So which pages are missing?
246.
246. Oh my goodness. Do you want me to print them out then?
Can we table
Sorry?
this and come back to it?
Yeah, we can, we'll just put the table list and come
Did you
back
say
to
2,
it
4, and 6 are
later.
missing?
So at a break or when we get a chance, you can gather those other pages so we can look them over.
Okay.
Moving on to item 5.3, the special meeting of council on October 29th. Can we get a motion, Councillor Gilroy?
Same problem.
Oh,
Is it one more page? Minutes?
There's a page 2 that's missing.
I want to get, like, just page 1.
okay, yeah, you're right.
It looks like the package must have gone through the copier properly, because it seems like every second page is missing.
So we'll table that one too.
Well, if they're numbered though, it says 33, 34, 35, so
Sure.
the pages were correct, it was the package wasn't put together.
Could we take
With all of the
say a
pages.
5-minute break just to go check,
Yes.
recheck the package? So we're not wasting time trying to figure out
Because
if we
the
got
terms
it?
of reference are the same problem.
Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
lord.
5 or 10-minute break so we can
So
double
take
check
a
on it?
break here, we'll get those, Marion, if you can, and then we can move on those.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because there's something missing in the party program financial support, there's something missing in the wilderness one, there's something missing throughout the whole package.
Well, what the heck happened?
I know we're trying to save money, but
It's all that.
All I know is
it's
one
all
thing.
that. There's
It's all that.